We're back.
It's your mom, friends. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Jess. And today we're sitting down with a special guest, Amy, to talk about how social media impacts not just moms, but our kids too. From comparison and confidence to boundaries and modeling healthy habits, this episode gets real about what our scrolling is teaching our children and how to create a healthier relationship with social media as a family.
I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend and colleague, Amy, who is a Christian mom to an almost 14-year-old daughter and a social worker who has been learning about and working in the mental health field for over 20 years. She finds peace in the outdoors, enjoys quiet moments at home or in the woods, and values time with her family and her fur babies. She believes in creating space to slow down, reflect, and stay grounded in a busy world.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. This is so exciting.
So excited to have you. So, Amy, I did a quick little introduction of you. Feel free to add anything else that you'd like to share. But really, I thought of you immediately when we started thinking about doing social media as a topic. I was like, my goodness, my friend Amy would be great for this because you have so many different perspectives from a mom, from a social worker, and really
Mm.
yourself. Right?
Mm.
So yeah, the floor is yours. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's funny, Chrissy, that you thought of me for social media because it's not like my first go-to topic, but definitely have a lot of perspective on it from, like you said, just being a human being in the world in 2026 and being a social worker at a school with grades 6 through 12. I see a lot of teenagers, so that's definitely a thing. And having a child who's almost 14. So navigating the world with a teenager and the pressures of what social media to have and just how they interact with each other. So yeah, it's definitely a good topic to break apart and discuss.
Yeah, where would you like to start? Like, I think of you for so many different things, Amy. And one thing is like you recently let go of social media for yourself.
Hmm.
So let's
Yeah.
dive into that. What made you decide to do that?
I don't have like a clear one reason. I just basically was like, you know what? I feel like I want to cut this out. Like I just want to fast social media. And I think part of the reason behind it was because my recent engagement, I'm not even sure when I cut it out. It was sometime in January, either the second or third week. But my engagement with Facebook at that time was just generally negative, like negative news reports and negative opinions of people that I'm friends with. And I just questioned, I guess, at a really basic level, like, why am I engaging in this? Like, why am I spending time, consuming this? Because I do believe that music, videos, social media, it's all like food. So, like what we engage with, we are consuming, and you can't consume things without it affecting you. So, and I was like, why not? Like, I got rid of Snapchat last year. I intermittently get rid of Instagram. I've never had TikTok for any length of time. I think I've downloaded it and been like, this is weird, and gotten rid of it. So it was mainly just Facebook, like engaging with local people. And yeah, so that was the final thing. And I was just like, I don't need this.
You know, it's funny, Jess talks about this, Jess, when she was saying what you put into your body, it's like food.
I was writing this down. Like we talk about this all the time. Like you're literally reiterating. We just talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast, like what you consume affects you. What you're nourishing your
100%.
mental health with, what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading. We talked about, like I had to give up watching Criminal Minds because it made me physically anxious and like I couldn't sleep. And it was like the show that you're watching literally is affecting you.
Yes,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
is.
So
It is consumption for sure.
will you talk about like, okay, so what have you seen it just personally since you've given it up or since you've taken it off your phone?
Yeah, so I don't miss it. I think that's one of the interesting things. Like as I was anticipating coming on today and talking about this, I was like, had the realization that I have not missed it at all. Like, I don't even really notice it's gone, which is interesting. And I'm really grateful for that. Oh, yeah. And more intentionality around connecting with my friends. Like, for the first time ever, I hosted a girls' night here at my house on Friday. We called it Galentine's. We had a lot of food and decorations and just fellowship with some ladies that I go to church with. And that's just being more intentional about seeing people in person.
You were saying that to me. We were talking on the phone the other day. Amy and I were, and she was like, "Oh, we should get together with, our colleagues for lunch." So I'm like, "Look at you being a social butterfly." You.
That's kind of like the lost art of human
Yes,
connection, you know? And like,
yes.
I've noticed that over the years of like, we have so many ways to stay in touch, but how often do we make a call to somebody or go visit somebody in person? You know, I feel like, and even sometimes when we call people, and I know I'm guilty of this sometimes, it's like, it's foreign. Like, people
Yeah.
don't want to answer their phone because they're like, why couldn't you just text me?
Yes. I'm
So,
person. I'm that person. So,
yeah. Or even
uh,
the amount, like when I was growing up, like people would stop by our house. We would stop by other people's houses. That's unheard of now.
Now
Yeah.
people now people are checking their Ring camera from like upstairs. They're like, "Who is at my door?" And I am going to pretend that I.
Like,
what
yeah.
about comparison, Amy? I'm sorry to jump in,
Oh
Jeff.
no, you're
Go
fine.
ahead.
I'll go ahead.
Okay. I was just curious about the comparison piece with social media. Did you find yourself in that at all,
Mhm.
and or do you find that with your almost 14-year-old daughter, who, by the way, for your listeners, is friends with my daughter,
Mhm.
and or with your students that you work with?
Yeah, like I think if we boil it down to like a really basic premise of being human, we are wired to judge. Like, whether it's a good judgment, a neutral judgment, a negative judgment. And I think it's inevitable that when we consume other people's content, that it's either like, oh, they're doing really well. And then the secondary thought is like, should I be doing that well? Or somebody posts something really like vulnerable and kind of embarrassing, or maybe too much for that space, and you're like, ooh, why would they post that? You know, or just like, it's just so easy to have all of these judgments. So, and yeah, so I wanted to like get away from that. And I think it's just so easy to fall into that. And the comparison piece of just like, people posting their regular everyday workouts, which I love for people. I love that they're being healthy and consistent, and it kind of like puts it back on me like, should I be doing that? Because that's a goal of mine, and I have not been as consistent. So it's very easy to compare. As far as with my child, she mainly compares not through social media, but by not having it.
Mm.
So she's one of the very few in her class that does not have Snapchat, and that seems to be the main vein of communication among kids her age. So what I've been telling her recently, because she's like, well, mom, I don't feel like I'm a part of things because I don't have Snapchat. And I said, well, Isabella, if they are a genuine friend and they genuinely want to connect with you, they'll text you. And she's like, well, mom, nobody texts anymore. But it's like, that's part of the intentionality of,
Right.
having a friend and being a friend. So, and she certainly does have her friends that FaceTime and, all of that, but it's tough because she wants what everyone else has. And that's very normal, especially for that age. Social is everything. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just had a follow-up question. Do you ever worry about, and I know that I do, my daughter does have Snapchat. It's the only social
Mhm.
media platform she has access to, and there's all kinds of things in place where I can check history. It doesn't disappear. Do you ever worry about, and I know I do on my end, her gaining access to something in someone else's house, right? And we can't have control over that. So how do we parent that?
Gaining access to something in someone else's house, like
So like
engaging in a different
if she's at a friend's
form.
house that has access to TikTok, if she's at a friend's house to whatever.
Yeah, and I think, it's not necessarily a worry. I think it's an understanding that can and will happen. And I
Mhm.
think that's part of teaching her discernment. So if she's not constantly engaged in it, then when she does come across it, she's going to know like, okay, like look at how much time my friends are spending on this. How sad is that? Or I mean, she's a pretty wise kid. I'm very fortunate in that. So she does have a really good understanding of like, this isn't right, you know? But it is very easy to fall into like, everybody's watching this, everybody's doing this. But I think it's just like, again, if we go back to consumption, if she eats a donut once a week, it's very different than eating 3 donuts a day every day. You know, like she's not consuming it every day. So, and she's gonna, you know what I mean? And that's the fact of this too, is that our kids are going to get to a point where they're adults and they're going to be exploring the world. And so I think having those honest conversations and understanding and expecting them to experience these things through their friends is just a natural part of it.
And I guess that's what I was hoping to get to. It's not that you're trying to like protect her from all of it, and you understand that she is going to get access to it at some point, right? And
Yeah.
being able to make
Yeah.
good decisions and trusting her to make those good decisions is all part of that process for sure. That was one thing that I worried about personally with my daughter, is gaining access to things when she's at a friend's house or whatever, or just at her dad's, right? Because she spent time here and at her dad's, and she might have rules. I had to let go of that control. I had to let go of it. And as a mom and as a parent, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My son just turned 13 and he doesn't have a cell phone. So
Yay.
everybody who knows me knows my views on this. And as he gets older, it definitely is like Chrissy said, having the conversations and putting the trust in him that, we've done this and we've had conversations and we've worked together. And I want him to know that I trust him because he sees stuff all the time at school. I mean, he's got he's been the only kid who hasn't had a cell phone since he was in like fifth, sixth grade. And so a couple of years ago, he struggled with it. I'm the only one. This isn't fair. I need to, and now he doesn't, I mean, he's in 8th grade. He's 13 and he doesn't really ever talk about it. Now we do have an extra phone. So if he wants to go to a basketball game after school, we'll send him with the phone. So at least we have contact with him. There's no social media. There's no anything on it, no internet, whatever. So it's not that I don't trust him with it. It's that I'm just trying to protect him as long as I can. Knowing that, yes, we are going to have to cross this bridge. Yes, we are going to. I'm hoping he's old enough that he's just like, I don't really care about it at this point. But I love that you said I'm the note taker of the crew. If you see me looking down, it's just because I'm writing down all the stuff that you said that I want to be able to regurgitate later. Something that I took away that you said, like you became aware. And my struggle with kids in social media is that they just don't have the awareness. Like I'm 37 and sometimes I realize that I'm doing doom scrolling obnoxiously and I'm not getting anything done. And I leave I put my phone down feeling heavier than when I started because like you said, there's so much negativity out in this world, out on social media. Media alone is just horrendous. And so I don't always have the awareness to put it down. What we expect kids to be able to, like, they're not going to. They don't have the awareness. They don't have the great brain capacity to realize that what they're consuming their body with is affecting them more than just hanging out with their friends, whatever. Like, I think that to me is going to be one of the things that I try and ingrain in him is that like what you consume does affect you more than just, being included or having fun or, what you're doing with your friends. I struggle with this. I really do. I struggle with it myself. I go back and forth all the time. Like I use social media for this purposes, right? Like putting a podcast out there, business wise, helping women. Like that's what I built my whole social media on. And there are times when I want to like burn it all down. I just want to shut it off. I don't want to show up anymore. But it's like I can't. It's a double-edged sword for me. Like I feel like I need it to be able to pursue the passions that I have. But it's not easy. There are days when I'm like, I see why people want to get off of it. I fully support taking it off of your phone and being like, okay, just when I choose to get on it. I don't want the access readily available because we shouldn't have access to this much information all the time.
And I do think that parents that are doing the best they can. And this is a shout out to the single parents, right? Who don't have the support. So sometimes giving a tablet is I don't want to, it's just helpful because it gives them something to do so you can do whatever it is that you need to do as a parent, whether if it's cooking dinner or clean the house or whatever. So sometimes I feel like we have good intentions and we don't necessarily know what we're doing and feeding them when we give them the tablet and access to all of this stuff, because really what we needed was just a break. It was just quiet time so I could cook dinner or clean the house or do whatever adulting stuff that I have to do. And so we're unintentionally creating this unhealthy habit for our kids at such a young age. Like toddlers are on screens. They're using tablets for gaming or whatever. And oftentimes we say, yeah, it's learning, whatever. And we don't really know the negative impact at the time.
Well, and I have a question for you guys because you both work in the school system. Do you see the impacts of this, and what are those impacts that you guys see of kids having access to tablets, phones, connection, readily at their fingertips? Like, have you seen a change from you? I mean, Chrissy, I know you've been in the school system for a long time. Like, have you seen a change over the years? What are your thoughts just as professionals in that world?
Amy can speak to it from before and after cell phones in the high school, right?
Yeah, I mean, you mean with the law that's been put into place with no cell phones? Yeah, that's been an interesting, I guess I can start there. So New Hampshire now is following a law where there can be no cell phone use within the school. The kids can still have them on their person, but just not visible and being used, which I think they tried to patrol it before, but now it's kind of a hard and fast rule. So there were a number of kids who were actually relieved not to have their phones, which was interesting. And I had one of my high school students say, I really think I failed English last year because all I did was scroll. So maybe I'll pass this year. So it's like, great. But really, the first two things that came to mind was focus is really difficult. And I'm sure Chrissy sees this at the K through 5 level, is that kids have a really hard time sitting and focusing for really any length of time. And the other piece that I see a lot with the 6 through 12 grade levels is communication skills, so social skills. And an interesting piece of that also is social media warfare. I guess for lack of better phrase for it, but kids will use technology to pick on other kids, or they post was it like a diss rap, if they don't like somebody, they post a video like a rap about them. I've heard that, but it can be really humiliating. And then now you have this thing which is not just said or done in one context, but can be shared, with dozens or even hundreds of people. So it becomes just so much bigger than, what bullying used to be. So that's a dangerous aspect of it too. I don't see that as much as I used to, but just so much use. So much use. Kids are definitely very much addicted. And that's a big piece too, that I don't think that word has come up yet in this conversation, but social media is built to be addictive. It is not if it's addictive, or for some people it's addictive. It is an addictive platform. That's how they make money, is through our attention and through people's addiction to it. So I know I kind of went off on a little side tangent there, but that's just, yeah, these poor brains, they don't really have much of a chance once they start engaging in it.
And they're engaging at such a young age.
Yes.
Right? And again, it could be innocent in the alphabet game or whatever learning game that we're giving to our kids, or we're putting on Netflix on the tablet, or we're doing whatever, right? It starts at a very young age and they're addicted before we even know it. And then it just progresses from there. And in children, there are children in elementary school that have access to social media. And
yeah,
that's kind of a scary thought. It's a scary thought because what's out there is out there. Once it's out there, it's out there. And the scrolling of the videos and the shorts and all the things, you never know. You never know what you're going to come across.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that you said that New Hampshire put in, and I'm going to upset somebody by saying this, but we said there's nothing off limits here, so I'm going to say it anyway. New Hampshire put a law that the kids couldn't have phones in the classroom. I just moved to Southeast Idaho. I'm from upstate New York. Before we had moved, New York had done something similar where they were going to have phone bags or something where kids essentially couldn't have their phones on them throughout the day either. And I was like, this is a win. Like this is I have friends who are teachers also, and I'm just like, I can only imagine how difficult it is to try and maintain these standards that they set for you guys while also babysitting cell phone use. That's crazy to me that that's even a thing.
Mhm.
The news stations, Facebook posts, this is now, and I said, I don't think I've ever supported anything that Governor Hochul had done, but this is something I can get behind. And the amount of parents that were furious because now I don't have access to my kid, and they instantly go to the what if, the worst case scenario situation, which we all know what that is. Okay.
Yes.
And I, as a parent, I understand that, but you're talking the okay, and God forbid this was even to happen. You are trusting that your kids are in place with people who know what to do in this type of situation. It didn't matter. Like people were with it, and I posted something about it, and the feedback that I got was like that I was like, I was the 1% parent that was like, I was okay with this. Everybody else was furious. And it kind of got me thinking because as somebody who works with moms and, who wants to support people in motherhood, I understand the struggles that we come across, but I have the take on this that like that's more of a personal thing. Like that's more of something that I would need to work on to understand why I feel the need to have this access to my 5-year-old, like have a cell phone. Because that was the argument. They can't do anything but call and text. They have no social media, but I want them to have the phone. And yes, the world has changed, but there's always been tragedy. There's always been things that have happened, right? Why do we feel now that is it because it's easy access because we're so used to having easy access? And I struggled with handing a child a phone because what kind of relationship are you now instilling in that child with the device, right? It may start small. It may start with just calls and texts at 5, 6, 8 years old. But how quickly we know that, like you talked about addiction, you're creating addiction in children who are essentially still babies.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't agree with it. I just cannot get behind that argument.
I have to agree with you, Jess. I do. I have to agree. And I think, God forbid a situation like that happen, all bets are off. Kids are going to have the access to they're going to get their phones. You know what I mean? Like if they bring them to school to have them at that point. I think it serves more harm than good having phones in school. When you look at the bigger picture, it's really hard to, as you said, teach in a manner that needs to be done when you're fighting with these devices all the time. So it's having some healthy boundaries around it, understanding when it's okay to have them out, when it's not okay. And quite frankly, the same rules apply when you're at work. We're teaching them skills. As Amy said, they're going to be adults. So while we need to protect them, we also need to teach them how to use devices appropriately, how to use social media appropriately, those types of things, while also working within their developmental stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am everything that you've talked about when it comes to just having the phone, getting rid of it, the stigma around it and stuff. I keep thinking in my brain, like I literally just wrote down, this sounds so familiar. I gave up alcohol 3 years ago. Everything I see, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like how I feel. But when I finally had enough and I was like, okay, I get anxiety. I don't like, I spend too much time. Like, there's just so much the addictive nature to it, the society norm that we've created around it. It sounds so much like alcohol. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, this feels like the same process that I went through when I chose to give up alcohol. And it's so crazy that we are allowing children to create these unhealthy habits. Now, again, I do think that, I moved away from my family. I live 36 hours. It's great to have that contact. But like you said, why can't we just pick up the phone and call? The FaceTiming. There's things like I'm not anti-device. I'm pro healthy habits. I'm pro, like, let's set boundaries. No, I don't want you on your tablet at 7 o'clock in the morning. Deegan hits the floor and he's like, I'm going to watch. And I'm like, no, just give your brain a break. Like, I'm pro healthy habits. I'm not anti-device. My kids have tablets, but I'm thinking like the addictive nature that we allow it right under our nose without even realizing it. Because how many of us are addicted to our phones? How much time, do you like when that I have an Apple and like every week it's like, oh, screen time notification. And it's always like, holy good grief. Like, is that is that good? I don't really think that's good. The amount of time it says that I'm on my phone, we justify. We own small businesses, we work from home. Like there's things that require us to be on our phone, but I just had a conversation with my husband the other night. Like when we're with the kids, I want the phones away. I
Mhm.
don't want them to see us watching TV, scrolling on our phones while they're sitting next to us. Because you know what happens when they're on their iPads and watching TV? One of us throws a fit. Give me the stinking iPad. I'm going to throw it out the window. We've said that too many times. Like, get off the iPad. But then I look at him and I'm like, we're doing exactly what we're yelling at them for. Right. What kind of behavior are we modeling?
Mhm. Yep. And how sad is that two forms of media need to be happening? No, Isabella and I go back and forth with the same type of thing. And it's one of those things that if you're going to ask your child to do something, then you better be prepared to do the same thing. Otherwise, it's very hypocritical. And I think part of this too, because it's so easy. I mean, this is such a big conversation. I think it definitely could be multiple conversations. In my mind, it feels like, we've kind of talked about the negative aspects of it. And I think that one of the positive things to remember is it's not too late to unring the bell. Like sometimes it's like we've set things in motion and it's like, well, how do I go back? And this is a sad piece too. When we talk about the kids and the phones and social media, is one of the things that stuck out to me is talking with parents when kids refuse to go to school, or kids are, punching holes in the walls, or just, different behaviors. And it's like, well, have you tried to provide a consequence by taking their phone? Like, say, if you don't go to school, you're not going to have access to your phone all day. And some of the responses from parents have been like, I could never take their phone away. Like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, that would lead to, it's like, wow. And I think the older they get, the harder it is, but it's not too late to kind of pull some things back just incrementally. It doesn't have to be the whole thing all at once, but Isabella and I had a conversation the other day because I had been doing a little bit of research about social media and smartphones with kids. And I was like, I'm not even sure I want you to have a smartphone. She was like, what? I thought now that I have one, I'm keeping it, and it's like anything. I mean, if we had to go backwards, we could, but I think we get so situated in like the GPS tracker, and it's nice to know where she is, and she can check the weather, and she can look on Parent Square for her homework. Like there's so many conveniences that come with that, but they're not necessities. So
And I think we live, and please forgive me if you take offense to this, but a microwave society. We want everything instant.
yeah.
And that has a lot to do with our phones. If we want something, if we want to know something, if we want to buy something, good Lord, there's digital money too, right? Like you don't even need to whip out a credit card anymore because you got it all saved in either your Apple Card or PayPal or Venmo or whatever. Like everything is instant. And so to understand that now that's the way we're living, to go back is
Mhm.
scary. And it's like, well, why? Why would I go back when, I feel like, but the awareness is really big here because oftentimes we are just functioning and we're getting through the day without realizing we're on autopilot, without realizing all the things that are happening
Mhm.
around us. So we're literally just surviving the day, going to bed and doing it all over again. And so
Mhm.
when you can slow down and build awareness around this and say, hey, this might be doing more harm than good. How can we do things a little bit differently? And I love that about you, Amy, because you bring the calm to my chaos all the time. Like I see you and I'm like, take a breath, Christy, because I mean, you both know me. Like I'm all over the place. I bounce, I whatever, and I take up a lot of space oftentimes when I enter a room. And I think that comes from living in survival for so
Mhm.
long. And so my nervous system has been hijacked for so long that I didn't know what life looked like outside of that. And so I think a lot of moms listening to this can probably relate to that. And being in that hamster wheel, right?
Mhm.
Going, and like thinking about taking a break from social media or taking the phone away from our kid or doing whatever is way more work than it's worth when you're living in that survival,
Mhm.
and when you don't have the support wrapped around you. Awareness is key, and figuring out how is it complementing your life, how is it complicating your life, right? And then really taking inventory on that and then figuring out what makes sense for you, because what makes sense for you,
Exactly.
Amy, is probably going to be different for me, it's going to be different for Jeff.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so instead of getting caught up in the comparison, and I should do this because Amy's doing this, I need to do this because it's right for me.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And everybody is at different places. And I think what's tolerable for different people is different. Likening it too to Jess's example of alcohol. People quit smoking cigarettes in different ways. Some people are cold turkey, some people use the gum, the patches. Like we can utilize different things. Or some people use harm reduction where they're smoking a pack and then they're smoking 10 and then they're smoking 5. So I think it's equivalent in the same type of way to social media. And I think it does all hinge on that self-awareness and self-honesty of what is taking up my time. How is that making me feel, or what is that producing in my life? Is it good fruit? Is it not good fruit? And then what do I want to do about it?
Mhm.
I've heard you guys say this on the podcast before, and nobody's alone in this. I think having even an accountability partner, if it feels scary to do, having one other person that may or may not want to do it, ideally they would be doing some form of, reducing social media use, but just having another person where you can touch base with on that would be incredibly helpful too.
Yeah, that's so important.
Wrote down connection. Chrissy knows, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, that my word for 2026, I say it was last year, but is connection. My word is connection. I want to connect with my kids. I want to connect with my husband. I want to connect with myself. I want to connect with God. Like there's all areas of my life that I'm like, it's connection. And when you talk about like self-honesty, it's easy to look at in a world that just wants to point fingers. It's easy to be like, well, I'm not as bad as this person, or I don't let and so it's easy to look outward, but really taking the time to connect with yourself and look inward and be like Chrissy said, what is this? What am I getting out of this? Like, is this harming me? Is this okay? Like, how is it affecting me? How is it affecting my kids? Because awareness is everything. And if we can put blinders on to what's going on outside in the world and just really look within our four walls and be like, okay, I need to get down to the gritty of what is best for me, what is best for my family, and how can I do that? I think sometimes we try as moms to keep expectations that are so high that, like, sitting down to play with our kids, Chrissy and I have talked about this too, play does not come very natural. So I'm not somebody who's like, oh, yes, I would love to spend an hour sitting on the ground playing Barbies, like that. My daughter loves that, but I have to be super intentional. Would I rather be doing other things? Sure, but I want to connect with her on her level doing her things. And I think sometimes it's easy for moms to get steamrolled by these expectations where it's easier to say, hey, go watch a movie, go play on your iPad, go do this, so that I can maintain what being a good mom is based off of what everybody else is saying. And I'm not connecting with my kid. And I've been using tablets or devices to keep them occupied so that they're happy, so that I can try and be a good mom in all of these other ways, instead of saying, you know what, the dishes are going to wait, this is going to wait. Like when you said, I wrote down, we get so stuck in our norm, we get so stuck in, and making changes is difficult, it's hard. Somebody who wants to eat healthy has to stop using, instant. We want that instant gratification. It's easy to just toss a frozen pizza in the oven. Meal prepping is hard. I used to say, I don't do that. I can't do that. I don't have time for it. I don't want to. Well, guess what? Sometimes we have to do the things that we say we can't do or don't want to do in order to see the benefits of the changes that we are willing to make. Because if we're not willing to make them, then we're not going to see the change. And so I was thinking about, while you were talking about that, like, just if we can decide how we want to connect with our families, how we want to connect with ourselves, what we want that to look like, and be okay with other expectations maybe falling short, because our only goal is to see how this benefits our family. Are other people going to say, well, now I can't see you on social media, or my kid can't text your kid? I'm sorry. It's going to be uncomfortable. When I had to say, yes, sorry, I don't drink anymore, it was wicked uncomfortable. But it's what's best for me. It's what's best for my family. Therefore, we have to be okay with it.
I love that. And I love the idea too, Jess. It's not about just not going on social media. It's not about cutting it out. It's about why. What's the drive? What are you hoping to get out of it? Is it because it's taking your time away from your family? Is it because it's robbing your connection, right? Like, what's the purpose of cutting it out? Not just because it's something you should do. Why?
Yeah, because if it's what we should do, we're not going to do it. There has to be a deeper connection.
Mhm.
It can't just be because Amy did it and now we should try. Like,
Right.
what really taking an analysis of what can this change look like for you? Because it may not be completely gone, but it
Right.
could be setting healthier boundaries. Like we had
Mhm.
talked about, an hour, 2 hours before bed, everybody's off of devices. Like, it can look different for everybody, but coming to an agreement within your family and having conversations on why, right? Like making the kids aware of why you guys are deciding to do this, why you're making these changes, why you want them informed on it, to hopefully set those stages. It's I say all the time, I don't want my kids to be 37 trying to figure this stuff out. Right? Like I was not, we weren't raised in this world because we didn't have the technology that they do now. So we're learning as we go too. How can we set healthy boundaries that these kids are just going to grow up knowing
Mhm.
versus them being like, oh shoot, I know that I was able to do all of these things and now I don't want my kids to have access to that kind of stuff.
And I think too that just giving thought to like replacement activities, again, going back to addiction and quitting any type of substance, it's not necessarily the absence. It is the absence of that behavior, but what are we replacing it with? A simple analogy is a lollipop or a toothpick for a cigarette smoker. But instead of the phone, say if you're 2 hours a day in the evening and you cut back to an hour, what are you going to do with that extra hour? Maybe you're going to play a game with your kid. Maybe you're going to make something new in the kitchen. Maybe you're going to clean out a closet you haven't looked at in a while. Like just something, to just, yeah, to fill that space. I think there's so much more to be gained than there is to be lost in trying these things.
I
Um,
agree. And another thing too that I often find myself talking to people about is don't put your phone in your bedroom at night. A lot of people say, well, I use it as an alarm clock. Get an alarm clock, get an Alexa. You don't need your phone because oftentimes when it's by you, you are scrolling until you fall asleep while your brain is firing when you are on your device. So even though you think you're sleeping, you're not really getting a well rest. You're not well rested, right? So keep your phone out of your bedroom. My daughter, she's not allowed to have it in her bedroom. She keeps it in she charges it in the living room at night. She does not bring it up. And she tried using the whole I need it as an alarm clock. She got an Alexa. It works just fine. So I feel like that could be a little shift too if someone does have it in their bedroom and they're using it until 11, 12 o'clock at night, like maybe leaving it in the living room or out of reach at a minimum. That could be a small shift too. Starting small. Like I always say, 1% better every day is still progress. So like we're not suggesting, and even for myself, like after this, I'm having all kinds of different ideas how I can lessen my time on social media. And I'm not going to do a complete shutdown because then my business wouldn't exist without it. However, I can have some parameters around it. So just thinking like, what small ways can we shift?
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I wrote down the word efficient. Like, how can I be more efficient when
Mm.
I'm on it and not allow me, because I will get sucked down on rabbit holes. I'll find something and I'll go here, here, here. And next thing I know, I'm not even remotely accomplishing what I set out to do. But I wrote down and circled mental health because every time you guys talk, that's all I think about. These changes are affecting our mental health. Like your environment, Amy just said, so what could we do with that hour? Could we go clean out a closet? Like your environment affects your mental health. If we are negating, taking care of some things that we want to do or keep putting off, but we're sucked into social media, that negatively impacts our mental health. But if we are able to put it down, how proud of ourselves could we be? You build your confidence. You don't need to be on it. You feel fresher, clear. And then you go do something in your home that you've been putting off, and it's like you feel like a new person. And so all of this can impact our mental health. And I think that truly comes down when you're beating yourself up as a mom who's carrying the guilt of my kid's on a tablet or I'm doing this or I spent too much time scrolling. It starts with us, and it's our mental health that's going to impact our children's because they're watching us and they're, how we respond, how we react. I know that we got to probably wrap up here, but I think that how we respond and how we react is how our kids are learning. And so if they're short fused, if we're short fused, like because tablets can tend to have that impact on kids. I know somebody I just talked to the other day. They said when my kid has one of those switches, he turns into a raging jerk. Like he's a completely different kid 5 minutes into it. And it's like, You're right. Like this stuff impacts our mental health. Our brains turn differently. Different things fire. I don't have the smarts to know exactly what. I just know that you see the impact on the kids' attitudes and I see my own impact and attitude.
Mhm.
So this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming and doing this with us. You've made me feel like I want to, I know that I need to. It's like being okay and being okay with this and finding what works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. And I think discussions like this help to change the narrative. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's totally okay or totally right or doesn't deserve some reflection, some change. So thank you both for having me. And this has been great.
It has been. So, thanks for hanging out with us on Mom Fuel and Mindset. If today's conversation spoke to you, take it as your reminder that happy moms don't come from doing more. They come from choosing themselves and owning their growth.
And if you love this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mom who needs a little fuel and a mindset shift today.
Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, keep growing forward, and remember, happy moms own their growth.
See you soon.